5:30, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Before we begin, I'm going to open up a citizens' general discussion. This would be if you wanted to speak on something that did not have anything to do with something that's on the agenda. Is there anybody here who would like to speak? All right, I'll go ahead and close the general discussion. Next up, we need approval of minutes. Commissioners, can I have a motion?
Second.
And that was Justin. All those in favor of approval of the February minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, next up, we have application number RP and RZ 2026-9451. Applicant Johnny Harper, representing Park 51 LLC, is requesting approval of a replat with simultaneous rezoning of a property located at 125 West Oak Street, parcel R31420, being approximately 1 acre of the S3500 Frey First Edition, Block 26, Lot 9 of the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas, from I Industrial to R 2.5 Integrated Housing. Mr. King.
Excuse me. Madam Chair, members of the commission, thank you for letting me sit here for a minute. And I'm going to handle this first case. Mr. Hopper is the property owner, but the person that's seeking to develop the property is Mr. Killen, who normally sits here. So this particular one's being handled through my office, and everything's being routed through me on this one, and I'll speak to the commission. The applicant is requesting a rezone to R 2.5 to allow smaller lot dimensions for the construction of 3 single-family homes, 2 that would front Park Street and 1 fronting Belknap. Remainder of the property would keep the existing industrial zoning. Replat establishes the appropriate lot dimensions and setback requirements as required for single-family residences. And generally speaking, subject to approval as a minor replat. Seeking approval of the replat with the following conditions. It must conform to our subdivision ordinance upon conclusion of all the reviews, including any reviews from Public Works, Development Services, or the Fire Department. Structures may not be placed over easements. Has to provide triangular site visibility easements at intersecting streets. Ensure that all required plat language is provided. And it's all conditioned, the replat would be conditioned on the rezone approval by this body and then ultimately the city council, and then the payment of all fees. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have for me and the proposed developers here for any questions you have for him.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. King?
If it's 3 single-family homes, why not do R1 instead of what's to keep them from building?
I don't think there's enough room to do 3 R1 on that particular piece of property. Right.
Okay.
There's, if I remember correctly, there's an existing home either on that property or the one next to it right now, but you don't have any R1 lots in that part of town. They're just, those lots aren't that size.
Any other questions for Mr. King? The developer's here. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Killen?
No, ma'am. I believe Mr. King has covered everything. It does meet the lot dimensions for the R 2.5. Can't get the R1 in there with this portion of property that's being considered. And as Mr. King stated, the remainder portion will be continued as industrial zoning.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Killen? Thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and open a public hearing. Does anybody here wish to speak in favor of this rezone and replat request? Does anybody wish to speak against? Closing the public hearing. Commissioners, we need a motion.
I motion for approval of RP and RZ 2026-9451 with conditions,
And recommend to council
and to recommend to council approval.
for the rezone.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor of recommending, of approving the replat with conditions and recommending to council the rezone request, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, that, we'll move on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. right, next up, we have application number PD 2026-9361, applicant Alex Bryant, representing TSU Catholic LLC, Barefoot Equity Partners LLC, and Chris and Dion Martinelli, is presenting an updated development plan for property located at 1292 West Washington, parcel R 77944, being block 134, lots 12, 18, 30B, 31, parts of 1334 West Washington, parcel R30249, being block 134, lot 40, ATM machine 1350 West Washington, parcel R30251, being block 134, lots 1, 5, 28, 1245 McNeil, parcel R30278, being block 134, lot 38A, 1255 McNeil, parcel 30280, being block 134, lots 38, 1303 McNeil, parcel R30272, being block 134, lot 32, 1345 McNeil, parcel R30271, being block 134, lot 31, S150, 1353 McNeil, parcel R30270, being block 134, lot 30A, and 1357 McNeil, parcel 30269, being block 134, south 150 feet of lot 29 of the city edition of the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Keller.
Impressive. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So tonight, staff is requesting that Commission review the development plan and provide a recommendation to the City Council. If the new development plan is approved, we will have a separate agenda item to recommend that the repeal of the first ordinance drafted for the first original PD in 2023, which is 2023 0-09. We will have a separate item to repeal that ordinance, or recommend the ordinance be repealed. In 2023, as you might recall, Mr. Reagan Thompson presented a development plan to rezone to a planned development, and that rezone was granted. Since that time, he has partnered with Mr. Bryant, and Mr. Bryant and his team are asking for some significant modifications to that plan development. And because of the fact that these are major amendments to the plan development, that requires the process to start over and come back through P&Z. And so that is why we're here tonight. The property is already zoned PD, but we're needing to consider a new PD for them to continue with the project. You have received updates along the way, and I believe in December of 25, it was mentioned that they were possibly looking at some different options for this property. Want to skip down to the plan development summary, and a lot of this is going to be covered in the presentation that Mr. Alex Bryant will be making to the commission here shortly. But just to touch on the highlights, it's roughly 3.6 acres with 271,000 gross square feet of multifamily and amenity space. They're looking at 208 units with 524 bedrooms. They will have a gated 5.5-story parking garage, which will include 540 gated parking spaces. They have an additional 64 spaces that will be a joint access parking agreement, and that is to be executed upon construction. The deviations are summarized below, and I'll just quickly run through those. Compare what they're requesting to what we have as standards. They are moving from the original PD, which included roughly 13,000 square feet of retail space, to this project will have no retail space included. The density for this will be 57.8 units per acre. The standard is 24 units per acre. Keep in mind they're going up, and they're building a parking garage to accommodate the 524 beds. 540 parking spaces is 1.03 spaces per bed. Ordinance requires 1.5 per bed, which would be 786. But again, these are going to be gated and controlled parking access spaces for this particular project. 64 shared spaces for the visitors through a joint access agreement. The standard would be that we could allow shared access. That's a common approach. Our ordinance does say, even with shared access, that you cannot have fewer parking spaces than the combined total for both uses in the shared agreement. So that would be the deviation. The communications tower in the previous PD was already approved at 125-foot height, and it was also approved to be within the 500-foot buffer zone of a residential district. So what we would normally cap out at would be 80 foot in height, 500 foot from residential, but this was previously approved in the PD before. You're looking at setbacks of front and rear of 0. For multifamily base zoning, that would be 25 for front and rear. Side setbacks are going to exceed, we would require 5 foot, they are proposing 10. They have a maximum building height of 62.5 feet. With ours, it's an average of 35 feet when you measure between the plate and the ridge line. The landscape plan, they will actually exceed the coverage of 15% of the total site. However, they will not have any island landscaping, and that is to maximize parking on the site. Turn radii as low as 21 feet. We generally see 26. Fire marshal has reviewed this, and since this is going to be entirely a sprinkled property, he was comfortable with the access in and out with the turn radii as presented in the development plan. The schedule is city council approval Q1 of 26, building permit application by summer of 26, and project completion by summer of 28. If there are any major deviations that occur, as you're seeing tonight, that would trigger a new process. And so we will work with the developer through the process as we move along to the next steps in development, and ensure that they remain and closely adhere to what is presented in the plan tonight. One thing that I do want to make sure ends up in the approval is the location for the waste connection roll-off containers. That has been reviewed by Waste Connections, and they're recommending 4 service dates per week. And so, Madam Chair, if this makes it through the commission and to City Council for approval, we will draft an ordinance that incorporates all of these items and make sure that it's what we have to guide the project moving forward. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Killen?
Do you say a maximum height of 62 feet, roughly, total height?
That is correct.
Is that going to be one of the tallest structures in town, or is that the tallest structure?
It'll be close to one of the, I believe we have some hotels that are going in at roughly 58 right now. The previous PD was approved with rooftop structures, I believe, for this particular property at 66, if I recall, probably may have been 67, but higher than what they're requesting at this particular time.
Any questions? All right, the developer is here tonight. Yes, sir, would you come to the podium, please? State your name and address.
Yeah, hi, Alex Bryant with Street Realty. You want my home address? Okay, it's 2547 Shirley Avenue, Fort Worth, Texas, 76109. Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. And thank you, Mr. Killen and Mr. King, for your support throughout this process. Actually really impressed with the reading of the legal description. That was a mouthful. My name is Alex Bryant. I'm here on behalf of Street Realty and our development team, including Southwood and Reload Capital, Reagan Thompson's company. Unfortunately, Reagan is on spring break with his family in Arkansas. So, last time, again, I apologize. I wasn't here last time. I was on family vacation as well. So it's funny how timing of this works. Appreciate the opportunity to present this project and time you've taken to review the materials in advance. We're here tonight to just reintroduce in some respects our project. I know there's been some change in the commission since our meeting in December. This project's located at 1350 West Washington, directly across the street from Tarleton, and is in close proximity to the President's office. This location is uniquely suited to support the continued growth of the university while also respecting and enhancing the surrounding area. Since our initial meeting, we've taken the feedback seriously and have made meaningful revisions to the plan. And specifically, we've addressed prior comments related to parking, building aesthetic, and overall site design. Our goal with these updates really was to ensure the project functions better within the neighborhood and also the Washington corridor in terms of access and really walkability for the students. And 'cause more broadly, and you'll see this in our presentation when I turn it over to the architects and engineers, but we really feel like this aligns with the city's vision outlined in the 2050 master plan. And I think one of the comments in that plan that really stuck out to us was that this relieves pressure in neighborhoods by adding purpose-built student housing that is close to campus. We believe this development delivers exactly that by providing a high-quality, professionally managed housing option in a walkable campus-adjacent location. From the outset, our goal has been to design a project that not only meets the housing demand driven by Tarleton's rapid enrollment growth, but also aligns with the city of Stephenville's vision for responsible development, in and around the university, but more importantly, Washington. We feel like, as you look at where the town has grown and it continues to grow outside of downtown, it surely seems like Washington is a natural place for that growth to occur. Again, thank you all so much for your time tonight, and with that, I'll turn it over to Steve Halliday, our design architect, and Reese Flanagan, our civil engineer, to walk you through the project, and then we're happy to answer any questions you may have, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Halliday. I'm principal at 97W. We're the design architect in Fort Worth. I guess I just hit the next button. So I just wanted to mention that we really valued the opportunity to present this to you back in December. It was Christmas time, so here we are at spring break. But these are direct questions that were asked by the P&Z Commission and sort of direct responses to them. We don't necessarily have to go over them one by one, but as we go through the commission or through the presentation, hopefully we'll have addressed all of those, and then if you have new questions, then we can certainly address them. As Alex said, this is our development team. We're really honored to be working with such an accomplished group, and this is a really great project for all of us. So I think one of the things that really hasn't changed in the whole process is that this is a housing need in Stephenville, and this is sort of a catalyst project. And so, as Alex said, it's providing high-quality, purpose-built student housing at the doorstep of Tarleton State University. So just to orient ourselves, this is a 3.6 acre site with Washington to the north, McNeil to the south. There are 3 existing residential structures on site that will be demolished, and then you can see sort of a replat that will have to happen, taking some of those lot lines away, and an existing cell tower site on the backside of the Barefoot property. And this is the new site plan. This is a civil site plan, so it's not as pretty as the architectural site plan, but it has good information. As Mr. Killen said, we've reoriented the site so that there is a drive off of West Washington. It sort of runs through the site and then down to West McNeil. In our previous iteration, we had direct access to the garage off of McNeil. We have since eliminated all of that. Just with talking to the neighbors after the meeting, we understood that McNeil's a small street, traffic is a concern there, and so just bringing those cars and giving sort of stacking space, and all entrances to the garage are off of that internal drive now. And the garage is fully wrapped, so there will be no garage or no car headlights or anything like that. And then really a presentation of residential to the south and to West McNeil, new development of sidewalks and street trees on both frontages, sort of in an effort to be good neighbors. And another revision that you'll see is sort of a reorientation of that common amenity space, or sort of an internalized courtyard. We had it sort of to the south, which was really, again, towards the neighborhood. We've pushed it north, adjacent to the managed office for the entire project, and really tried to sort of buffer it from any of the neighbors. And so here you get sort of a presentation of the project from Washington. And architecturally, our goal is sort of for a timeless and context-sensitive design. It's a building that should sort of age gracefully and should look like it's been here for a while. It's not of necessarily of today. Hopefully, once it's built, you'll think that it's always been there. So it's rounded with sort of a Texas vernacular material palette with a solid limestone base, and then masonry and mixed materials with some earth tone panels and metal panels kind of on the back sides. And we sort of shifted some of those materials. You'll see some breakup of the material plane, and so we're not really sort of monolithic, trying to break down the scale as it sort of goes to the back of the property. And then these are the elevations. You can sort of see this two-story entry as you enter off of Washington. These are just kind of inspiration images. These are sort of a common thread through Reagan's the initial concept, and just ideas of signage and sort of an outdoor space that would create community for the multifamily project. And then here you get the architectural site plan. So you can see the parking garage, sort of two entrances off of that internal drive, 540 parking spaces, again, 208 total units, 524 total bedrooms, and that pool deck sort of amenities pushed up towards Washington. And I think that just about wraps it up. So I think we obviously know that parking is critical. It's a part of the conversation, and so by proposing one per bedroom with those 63 additional spaces on site, 587 total spaces, the structured parking allows us to manage vehicles responsibly on site and with assigned parking spaces, and it prevents neighborhood spillover. We even mentioned maybe that there would be no parking signs along McNeil at this location or something along those lines. So just to wrap up, the plan development meets a documented housing need in Stephenville, and it provides appropriately scaled and timeless design. It actively protects the neighborhood and aligns with the long-term growth goals. So we respectfully request your approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any questions?
The reason that you guys did away with the retail was strictly because of parking?
Well, I think retail is, it's difficult in a mixed-use scenario. So you have sort of conflicting issues. So you would need more parking. You would also need deliveries and sort of truck traffic. You would wind up with potential vacancies even. So this developer studied this really hard. I mean, it's difficult to finance mixed-use projects, and really we were thinking of this almost as like a horizontal mixed use, like what the businesses along Washington need right now are, bodies essentially, and so this provides that sort of catalyst of walkable bodies that then can visit all of those other businesses, and really sort of becomes an amenity to the existing retail that's already there and established.
And one of the, I guess, strong points that the last plan had is it did have the retail on the bottom.
Yes, sir.
But given the problems that you face, like you said, the trucks and the traffic and all that.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Were you,
I'm happy to, if there's any engineering subjects.
any engineering questions? All right, thank you, sir. I'll go.
I will add, there is a detention pond challenge, if anybody's wondering. So that should make it something about this.
All right, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak against this plan development?
Me?
Yes, ma'am. If you could come up to the podium, state your name and address, and have you filled out a form?
I did. My name is Carolyn Reeves. I live on Neary Road in Granbury. I purchased a house on McNeil that is right across the street from this building. I purchased it so that my child could go to Tarleton and have access of a block away. I understood there was going to be a 60-unit apartment complex with retail stores, and I was fine with that. But this is like the Taj Mahal of apartment complexes. It's bigger than anything Tarleton has. They already are putting in another apartment unit for their students. With this, I don't feel safe that my daughter is across the street on this little house that I purchased for her to go to school at Tarleton. Tarleton's a great community. I like it. It's a Western. This is Fort Worth. This is not Stephenville. I don't like that they're now putting cell towers in the back of this, which is probably going to be off McNeil, which causes cancer. I don't want that. These are things that I am concerned with. They're going in and out of McNeil. It's not a very big street. Now they're taking away my parking in front of my little house so that they don't disrespect the neighbors. But I don't understand how one person loses one person wins and the rest of us lose on that street. I want to invest in Stephenville because it's a small community that I feel my daughter would be safe in. But with this being built, I don't feel safe with it being built across the street. And my investment shouldn't be destroyed because they want to expand as much as they can on that one little property when they had said 60 units and retail store. That was fine for them. Now they want to use everything they can with that little lot to make as much money that they can. So I don't think it benefits the town here, and I don't think a lot of parents would like it either. I think Stephenville's growing great, very nicely. I think this is an overkill for the students of Tarleton, because I know what they're aiming at. So anyway, that is my concern, is that it looks pretty, but you don't see the backside of McNeil and what it's going to look like. So it's just going to shadow my little house on McNeil. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I will note there is an existing tower, a cell tower that exists and was part of the last PD as well.
I'm sorry, I was on vacation
Yeah.
when it was
Okay.
during Christmas.
Thank you. Does anybody else here wish to speak against this plan development? Yes, sir. If you come up to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Tom April. I have a house on 1312 McNeil Street, so right across the street from the area. And a couple just questions. I thought you were saying that you alleviated
So,
the...
sir, just go ahead and state your questions, and we'll come back to that. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's just the format, sorry.
I was worried about the access onto McNeil from the parking garage. And I think he covered it, but
Right.
I'm not sure, so that's one question.
Okay.
Is there roof parking on this parking structure?
Okay, we'll get back to that, so.
Okay, so
access-
if it is, then it goes over the 60 feet, 6 inches. So, just,
All right.
fish. And how much is the distance between the lower parking area and the roof? I mean, all these kids have trucks.
Oh,
And
in the parking garage, it says
Right,
Steve.
right. So,
Okay.
those are a few questions, and we didn't really talk about the access back onto Washington. We were talking that that's gonna be the main access point, but how are the people gonna make a left turn as they're pulling out of the parking? Is there gonna be a light, crosswalks, things like that? So that's another question, and again, I liked what she said about the cell tower. Is that where it's gonna be, is on the backside of the parking structure? And really like to see some illustrations or pictures of the backside of the building. I mean, like you said, but my house, I think, is right across the street from that parking structure. And it's being shadowed by that big, huge building. So I understand how many cars you need per bed, but are they going to make the lower parking underground? I mean, that would drop the...
I don't believe
top
that's
of-
in the,
yeah,
but
I
we'll
don't-
get back to all your questions, okay.
Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir. Anybody else here who wishes to speak against this plan development? Yes, ma'am. 3 minutes, please state your name and address.
My name's Mary April, and I have the house at 1312 West McNeil, too. And I just, when I heard 524 people, I think, living there, I was like, what? And then you can see the access coming out onto McNeil. So potentially 500 cars could be filtering out onto little skinny West McNeil Street, which to me seems like way too many people for that area. And also the height of it, it's as big as that ugly building on the corner. It's that building's so ugly, and I thought, oh no, another big tall thing that we can see all the way from our house, like I can see from our ranch, like miles away, I can see that building. So I'm kind of against how big it is and how many people, because I think that's too many people for that small of an area. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wish to speak against this plan development? Does anybody wish to speak in favor of this plan development? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Steve, can you address some of these questions specifically? Yeah. So questions, access to McNeil, there was access to McNeil.
Yes, so, to be clear, the gates, I guess, we can show it up here. So if you wanna, there is a drive off of McNeil, but the gates are all to the garage, are all access off of this internal drive. So really, the majority of traffic will come down Washington and enter a gate directly in front of them, and then sort of work their way into and up the garage. If it became
Okay.
sort of an access issue, we could sort of work through that additional gate. It's required to have two means of entrance.
All right,
basically.
and there is no rooftop parking.
So, so in a parking garage, you essentially have a roof. So the roof is made out of concrete, so it's a concrete deck that is parkable. So
Okay.
it's at the same level as the roof of the building, which is 52 feet 6 inches above grade. And so the 62 foot 6 is really only the tower elements that are around that front entry. You can see them sort of in masonry on either side of the black entrance along Washington. Everything else is at 57 feet or below, and that roof is at 52 feet.
Okay, and I assume the internal range of the roof accommodates big trucks? I'm sure there's a standard.
Correct, so it's,
yeah.
it's 10'8" clear height, or floor-to-floor height, which allows 8'2" clear. That'll accommodate trucks and van accessible spaces as well.
Access to Washington, is it similar to what's over at the edge, where there'll be another lane?
So there's a decel lane, that's
Yeah.
correct, and the civil engineer can speak to that, but exactly. So there will be a decel lane for eastbound traffic.
And I know
essentially.
we've talked in the past about crosswalks. I know that this is a TxDOT controlled area, so we
Correct.
don't get to have a say about a light. That comes from TxDOT.
Correct.
But I know we did talk about crosswalks.
That's correct.
Regarding the cell tower, I can see in the pic there that it is not at the back of the property. It looks
That's
like
the
it's.
same location essentially. They're going to replace the cell tower, and essentially it's about 20 feet to the east of that existing or that location that we're showing. So they're planning to relocate it and sort of repair what's there.
And do you have any illustrations of the back of the
So we
property?
have a rear elevation, and I'd be happy to provide. So this is sort of the rear elevation. It's very much the same as the front. It's essentially sort of like almost like brownstone bays is kind of the idea. So we were trying to break down that scale of the building so that it looks like multiple units, I would say. The sort of the bottom elevation, the south elevation is facing McNeil.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, commissioners, we need a motion A recommendation to council.
Make a motion to recommend to council approval of PD 2025-9361.
Second.
Although, any discussion?
I just feel like the whole town is at the mercy of Washington Street. It's very, very narrow, and that's just a lot of traffic for all of us to deal with, and it's already chaotic. That's just my opinion.
I agree. However, I think that putting students right next to Carlton is the only solution that we have that makes sense for students. It's the only way to pull them out of the neighborhoods, which is also driving people crazy.
The only thing that I'd like to see different would be the retail space, but I understand the problems that they would have parking. So,
All right, we ready to vote? We're going to do roll call? We'll do a roll call vote. Okay, so the motion stands to recommend to council approval of this PD. We're going to start with Brian.
Aye.
Justin?
No?
Lisa?
Aye.
Lisa is aye.
Aye.
All right, so that will move forward to council, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening. All right, next up, application number repeal 2023-0-09, applicant Alex Bryant, representing TSU Catholic LLC, and Barefoot Equity Partners LLC, is requesting ordinance 2023-0-09 be repealed. Mr. Killen.
Madam Chair, with the favorable recommendation for the PD being updated, then we need to repeal 23-0-09 and replace it with an ordinance that will accommodate what is being presented tonight or was presented tonight. Just a recommendation to City Council to repeal that ordinance.
Any questions? All right, I'll open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak against this repeal? Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this repeal? Closing the public hearing, commissioners, I need a motion.
Make a motion to recommend approval of repealing 2023 dash, what was it?
O-09.
Dash O-09.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of recommending council approving the repeal of this plan development, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you, sirs. You're really done now. Off you go. All right, next up, we have application number PP 2026-9570. Applicant Malcolm Canute, representing Rock Creek Property Number 1 LLC, is requesting approval of a preliminary plat of property located at 0 West Cedar Street, parcel R78345, being approximately 49.6 acres of the A0342 HC Hudson abstract of the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So we have a preliminary plat that's been reviewed by staff. Once we get to the construction point, a final plat will be brought back for approval by the commission. And so you just want to point out a few things. We are asking for consideration of conditional approval for this plat. It's of the 49-acre tract that we're fairly familiar with from recent presentations before the commission. We've got a very lengthy list of plat comments, 21 to be exact, and then one of those says that it has to comply with the Public Works Review comment list, and that list is pretty lengthy as well. And I do want to point out something about a preliminary plat, 'cause I know there's a lot of concern about the project. What will be moving forward, assuming we move forward with the plat tonight. But the effect of the approval of preliminary plat allows for the developer to proceed with development and platting process by submitting construction plans. Doesn't mean that the project is going to be ready to go, doesn't mean that they're going to be building anything. We're basically just saying this is what the overall subdivision is going to look like. So we have 49 acres. They're wanting to put 37 single-family homes that meet the R1 lot dimensions of 75 by 100. That's what they're wanting to build. And so here's the kind of a preliminary thought on how that's going to look. Major concerns that we've heard over and over about this property is, where's Harbin Road gonna come through? That's addressed in the plat comments. What's going to happen with Cedar Street? That's addressed in the plat comments. And how is it going to connect by Whitefield? We've required that to be an additional requirement as well, which will mean that the developer will have to make those improvements on Whitefield to meet the local road requirements. And so, city staff's put a lot of time into this, the developers put a lot of time into it, and so have the citizens in this community. We've all put a lot of time, invested a lot of sacrifice of our time and making sure our concerns are heard. And I guess what I want to convey tonight is that this is a step along the path, but it's not necessarily making this project come to fruition until we get the development plans and we know that it completely meets all the requirements set forth by the city. Boring you with chapter 155 details may not be all that productive tonight, but I'll certainly work through each comment if you would like me to, or if the citizens would like for that to happen. So, been rambling a little bit on that, but I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we, as the city, are fully aware of the concerns, and we're working with the developer to try to get us to that point. If we can skip down, Jeff, to I'm showing it as page 73. That's the plat itself. And so what you see on the east side, that's Whitefield that will come into the development, and then it curves down. There are some homes that are backing up to Cedar Street. They will dedicate right-of-way for Cedar Street, make the improvement for Cedar Street. Whitefield, as it feeds into the development, the extension into the existing area over to Lillian, that will be required to be brought up to current standards as far as local road requirements, and that's 31 foot of pavement curb to curb. The question is, where does Harbin Road connect, and how does it connect? And there are some things that we don't know at this time, but we have made it clear that they have to show and have to provide the Harbin Road extension, and they have to build Harbin Road once we determine where that's actually going to go. The reason we don't know that is because adjacent property owners also have some control on how that looks. And so we're trying to find a way to make it go through the property, connect to the 49 acres, and continue west to open the door for some other developments on other properties to the west of this 49 acres. Again, this is 37 lots. Fire marshal has reviewed it. His requirement, there's two means of ingress and egress. He's spoken with the developer, and I believe they have that resolved. Public Works, again, has reviewed it, and they've provided a list, and I've included that in the packet for your review as well, and that's on page, I believe, 71 and 72. And so with that, Madam Chair and Commissioners, be glad to answer any questions. And the developer is here tonight as well, should you have any questions for him. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Killen?
Did you say that the concerns from the fire department have been addressed?
That is correct. Yes, sir. It's the secondary point of access, and Mr. Canoe can probably speak to you a little more about the details that he and the fire marshal have covered, but I did get a reassurance from the fire marshal that has been, they have a plan to move forward.
So the fire marshal's concerns are settled?
Yes, sir.
What about the curve that everybody's so, the problematic curve, how has that been addressed?
Well, I believe with this plan, and maybe the developer would be the best to answer, but this plan brings most of this, most of access for, and it's 37 homes is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And he's bringing them in off of primarily Whitefield.
Okay.
Can you kind of give us the layout of that, of where I see Cedar Street?
So this is Cedar Street.
Where's the
The
loop
additional
line?
dedication is provided. Whitefield is here. And so eventually, is maybe Harbin gonna come down this way, or is it gonna come across the top? That's to be determined, but it is a requirement for the conditional approval of the plat.
So specifically with Whitefield, I know one of the complaints was that it's so narrow, so how would that be addressed?
So the city has the 50-foot right-of-way. We just don't have the road built to the
It just needs to
31-foot
be
north
built.
curve.
Gotcha,
Right.
okay.
So you don't have any idea like how what the fire department said about the entrance? The other-
So the fire department, if it's over 30 lots, it triggers a secondary means of ingress egress. This is showing, the developer does have plans for a future point, but currently the fire marshal wanted to make sure that it was covered. And so I believe the gentleman's agreement here is that he is going to be limited to 30 homes and we cannot issue building permits for number 31 until that secondary means is covered.
And if we approve this tonight, it'll come back, since this is just a preliminary?
So before it can move to building construction, all public improvements would have to be completed and accepted by the city. Final plat would have to be approved by the commission, and then that's when building permits could be issued. The only alternative to that is if the developer entered into some type of escrow agreement or developer agreement with the city, and then we would have the latitude to issue building permits before acceptance, but we would have funds set aside to ensure that those improvements were completed, should the developer not continue with the project.
Any other questions?
And again, the top little loop there, that's Whitefield on the east side there where it comes out. I'm just trying to.
Yes, sir. This is Whitefield. It'll come over to here. Lillian runs
Yeah,
this way.
okay.
So, it'll come to this point, come down. Eventually, one thought is that Harbin may come down and connect on this far end of Cedar. And if that doesn't work, then it will be looking at something up here, and that's something that the city staff's currently reviewing, if we want to make modifications to the thoroughfare plan to have it come across the top.
Will the right-of-way for Harbin be settled before the final plat?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so as it stands, I will open a public hearing. I know y'all are anxious to have a say. But just so I'm clear, if we approve this tonight, nothing is actually happening other than it's putting things into motion to begin.
Correct.
Correct. But it's not, there's no approval, this isn't happening, it will come back to us again for a final plat.
Basically, we're approving the overall layout of the subdivision.
Got it. Okay.
And there's no zoning change involved, it's already zoned.
So
R1.
this portion, it's a great question, and thank you for asking that. This portion of the property, and Jeff, if you can pull up one of the maps, parcel maps, that says current zoning R1 single family. There you go. That green sliver is actually B2, which is retail and commercial. Everything in yellow is single-family residential. So everything in yellow could be built at 75 by 100 R1 single-family lots as a use by right. So the only thing that he's looking at touching is that, I believe it's 13 acres on the bottom corner of the map shown.
All right, any other questions? Did you say Mr. Canute was here tonight? No? Yes?
Mr. Taylor?
Do you,
Canute?
do you have anything that you'd like to add, or?
Well, I'll just add, and thanks, Steve, for the very thorough walkthrough on how this has proceeded to this point. Those 37 lots do conform to the R1. I believe every single one of them exceeds the 75-foot standard. I think they're all 80-foot wide, so slightly larger than what R1 calls for. And happy to answer any questions, but really, Steve did a good job of outlining how we've gotten to here. So happy to answer any questions, though.
Any questions?
What is the overall plan for drainage off the northeast piece of the property up at South Loop, so where South Loop and Lillian would meet? Because that drains directly back to that property.
Yes, sir. So with the preliminary plat, one of the plat comments is that we need the drainage study and the civil plan set submitted to the city so we can actually look at how they're going to address those drainage concerns. That should be received in the next week or so. It's not quite ready, but we did list that as one of the conditions on the approval of preliminary plat. I can't really tell you the details on how the drainage is going to be addressed, but in layman's terms and for people in the audience, this property and how it's developed cannot cause a detrimental impact on downstream properties. So what is currently flowing to the downstream properties, it's not on the developer to fix those problems, but he cannot add to those problems. And so we've got a third-party engineering firm, city staff, and then, of course, the developer's engineering firm, all working on that together to make sure that there's no detrimental impact downstream.
And just to be clear, just coming from that northeast corner downward, there's houses that back up to that corner, correct? On the plan?
If you could just, I didn't quite follow where you were going with that.
Tremendous amount of water here. And there's houses that the rear of them face.
No, the
No?
the
if you
current
look at the-
preliminary plat
Okay.
stays
plat.
below that, where you were just pointing out on there.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open a public hearing. If there's anybody here who would like to speak against this preliminary plat recommendation, now is the time to do so. I have a number here, so I'll just go ahead and go through these, and then if there's other people who pipe up in the meantime, we'll get you in. So Jill McIngus. And please state your name, your address. You have 3 minutes.
So I'm Jill McAngus. We live at 891 Private Road 1424, which is right off Cedar Street. Our private road would be right across from the entrance on Cedar Street. I just want to kind of clarify some things. So yes, you say that there's 2 points of entry. I don't necessarily see how that's 2 separate points of entry. Whitefield leads on to Lillian, yes, but Lillian is an extension of Cedar, so ultimately all of those cars are still going on to Cedar. That curve is, if you can go back to the plat, or the drawing. So the curve that you were talking about, Cedar extends, Cedar curves, and then it comes up and Whitefield dumps onto that. So technically, all of those vehicles are still going onto that same small road. So that's my one concern. I have voiced many concerns about Harbin. Unless I heard you wrong, you said that there was a gentleman's agreement, that there was only going to be 37 houses. In my mind, that means that there is nothing official saying that there's only 37. I do want to thank you for going to R1, like we appreciate that. However, in my mind, that means that this is going to be extended. And then you say we can't proceed with this until Harbin is established. Is that also a gentleman's agreement, or is that in writing? And if so, how are we funding that? And if we could just have, that information. I don't think that we have that information. So for me, I feel like to go on with something before we have the correct infrastructure or the correct information is probably not the correct or the ethical thing to do for all the families that live around there, because we really are concerned about the safety of our families and the safeties of the citizens that are surrounding there and the traffic that goes through there. Ultimately, if there is only 37 homes, they're probably going to end up being rent houses, to be honest. And you're expecting probably 4 cars per house, like 2 to 4 average. So all of those cars are going to dump onto Cedar. And that is ultimately Cedar that leads to Lillian. Whitefield, I don't know if you've ever driven it, but the houses that are off of there, that is a very small road. I know that you're saying the road is going to be extended, but that's going to be at the expense of those families that bought houses on that road, which is really unfortunate because their children play in that street all the time. They bought there for the safety of that. You're taking that away from them, and that's unfortunate. Again, I would love for R1 housing to be there if Harbin was there and if that was the main in and out was Harbin. But I don't see how we have anything in writing that we're going to get Harbin before this is established. And I would like for that not to be a gentleman's agreement and to be in writing.
Thank you, ma'am. Doris Howell?
Yes, I'm Doris Howell, and my husband and I live at 1610 West Cedar. We also own property at 1560 Cedar, 1411 K-Lock, and 1360 K-Lock. I too would like to thank the Knuts for hearing our concerns. That's one of the 3 concerns that we've had, and we appreciate the R1 zoning. But y'all have all seen Cedar Street. I mean, they're gonna do 25 feet. I guess they're paying for that, I don't know, but even that is still a very small street. Then that corner is a terrible blind corner tying into Lillian, which is not that much better. Whitefield, I mean, Cedar Street and Whitefield, in my opinion, are the 2 worst streets in this town. And I know the city doesn't have money to redo those. You know, those are concerns, the safety and traffic and the drainage and flooding. Where that is showing tying into Cedar Street is the 2nd worst flooding area on that street. It floods there lots of times, and it gets pretty deep. And I understand that they can't have it come off there any more than it is, but it already is a problem. And I agree. I think all of these things need to be resolved before we even move forward, because where's the construction entrance going to be? Where are all these vehicles going to be going in and out? Where's that traffic going to be directed until they get their final or whatever it is that the city needs? What's going to be the future development of the rest of that property? What traffic is going to be impacted by whatever? I don't know what their plans are for that. Are they going to widen all of Cedar Street or just that one little bitty piece of it? There's just so many unanswered questions that I just feel like it would be, you know, better to be proactive than reactive and get all of these things resolved and again in writing and address these concerns so that once this starts, we are happy with the R1 zoning. We are happy with single families. It's keeping the integrity of our neighborhoods, and that's what we've wanted all along. But there's 2 other major factors that have impacted this project the other 2 times it's been brought before y'all, and those things have not been corrected yet. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Penny Hampton?
When I turned it in, it was just me, but now I'm speaking for some more people, 4 of which that are here tonight, that meets the.
The 10, oh, okay, so you have 10 minutes?
Okay, will you take one and pass it? Thank you. Penny Hampton, 1411 Harper's Mill Road. I'm also speaking for some other people who live on K-Lock Street and Cedar Street. So some of you have heard me talk about this before. Some of you are new to this. So I'm going to start with reading a letter from Joan Boucher. Dear Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm writing to formally oppose the proposed preliminary plat application number PP 2026-9570 for the development of approximately 49.6 acres located on West Cedar Street. I want to begin by stating that I understand and accept that this property will eventually be developed. My concern is not with the R1 development itself, but with the ensuring that the necessary infrastructure is in place before any approval is granted so the public safety and surrounding properties are not put at risk. The first point is failure to meet approval criteria, public safety section 155.4.05.G.8. The city's subdivision ordinance clearly states that preliminary plat should not be approved if the proposed development endangers public health, safety, or welfare. Cedar Street already presents dangerous driving conditions due to its narrow width and a particularly hazardous curve with limited visibility. Within the last 12 months, there have been 2 very serious accidents at or near this curve, underscoring the existing safety concerns. Adding traffic from a large residential development will significantly increase the likelihood of further accidents. Without substantial roadway improvements, the proposal directly conflicts with this section 155.4.05.G.8. The second point is the inadequate road capacity and road improvements, section 155.4.05.G.4. This ordinance further requires that the proposed provision and configuration of public improvements includes roads are adequate to serve the development. At present, Cedar Street is too narrow to safely accommodate increased traffic volume. Whitefield is not designated to handle the additional load this development will generate. The dangerous curve on Cedar creates a known safety bottleneck. While the staff report notes a requirement to dedicate 25 feet of right-of-way for Cedar Street, this alone does not ensure that the road will be widened, improved, or made safe in a timely manner. Additionally, there are no clear commitment regarding road widening, construction, and installation of traffic control devices, signals, Cedar, Lillian, or Whitefield or Lillian if warranted, funding responsibility for these necessary improvements. Without guaranteed funding and completed roadway upgrade, the infrastructure cannot be considered adequate under section 155.4.05.G.4. The third point is the danger and storm water concerns. I'm not going to read this section unless y'all just want me to again. Okay. The ordinance requires submission and review of preliminary drainage plan and stormwater management plan to ensure that drainage infrastructure is sufficient. There already exists significant drainage issues in this immediate area that must be taken into account. When Pittman Lake overflows, floodwater impacts Cedar Street, contributing to road water flooding. A neighboring property includes a small tank and a crossing that becomes completely flooded during heavy rain events, making passage unsafe and impossible. These flooding issues have worsened recently and appear to be linked to increased runoff from newer construction on the west side of town, which is already altering drainage patterns in the area. Given these existing conditions, adding a large-scale development with significant impervious surface and further increased runoff exacerbate flooding risk unless substantial mitigation is implemented. Until a comprehensive engineering independently verified drainage solution is provided, the proposal does not meet the requirement that public infrastructure is adequate to serve the development under this section. The fourth point is unresolved infrastructure responsibility. A critical concern remains unanswered. Who will pay for the infrastructure improvements necessary to make this development safe and functional? Specifically, who is responsible for widening Cedar Street? Who will fund intersection improvements or traffic signals at Cedar and Whitefield? Who guarantees existence of these improvements will be completed before increased traffic impacts residents? These are fundamental questions that must be resolved prior to approval, not deferred to a later stage. Again, I recognize that future R1 development of this property is inevitable. However, approval should not be granted until it can be clearly demonstrated that roadways will be widened and improved to safety accommodate increased traffic. Traffic hazards, particularly at the dangerous curve on Cedar, are properly addressed. Existed draining problems, including overflow from Pittman Lake and flooding at nearby crossings, are fully resolved and not worsened, and funding and responsibility for all required infrastructure and improvements are clearly defined and guaranteed. Until these issues are resolved, the proposed preliminary plat does not meet the approval of the City of Stephenville, particularly with respect to public safety and adequacy of public improvements. For these reasons, I respectfully request the Commission to deny or defer this application. Thank you for your time. Joan Boucher. So what I would just like to add first, again, is thank you for listening to us today. And I do recognize you guys have worked hard to try to listen to the concerns that we've had. As a resident in this area who grew up in that neighborhood, the Lockwood subdivision, playing in those streets, now as an educator for over 25 years, My thing, people know a lot more about these section laws and all those things. For me, it comes back to safety. I think about the kids that play in those streets. I think about the school bus that gets on Lillian and stops there with all those kids in the road. I think about the safety factors of that blind curve and how, it's not safe. And if you haven't driven these streets that we're talking about, when you see it up there, it looks bigger than it is. 2 cars can't be on the same road at the same time. You can't pass. You have to get over into the grass on there, especially if it's a bigger truck. These roads cannot, in Whitefield, with parking on the side, one car can barely get down there at one time. The infrastructure is not there. The safety is what I come back to each time. I know that the R1 is exactly the right way to go, and I think this should be put off until there is a solid plan for Harbin to be the point of entrance, because Cedar Street and Whitefield are both unrealistic options for when you think about the violations of the people who already live in this community, who already have been here. And I know we're thinking about, and honestly, for the safety of these other individuals as well, because it's not a safe area with those access points. It's not a safe area for anyone in that. So please think about having your own children playing in the street and then coming around a corner without even knowing it's there. And an increase of that many people in that area without expanding it properly with the proper infrastructure is detrimental to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Scott Randolph?
Scott Randolph, 1506 Whitefield Street. I'm actually the last house, so that curve would go right into our side yard there. All right. My name's Scott Randolph. Thank you for having us up here yet again. I've been a proud resident of Stephenville for 20 years, husband for 15 years, father of 2 young boys that play in those streets. Own a business here for 14 years, so it's safe to say Stephenville's home for me and my family. I'm 100% in support of more homes in Stephenville, and I want to voice, R1, the appreciation for trying to go R1 in this. We know that this is going to happen at some point. I'm open for growth. I want growth, just like anyone else. It brings opportunity for more families to settle and call a city home. Growth only helps small business owners like myself and just the town to prosper. For the 3rd time, I'm here to oppose a development that includes plans to make our small dead-end road a main entrance that would eventually become a large neighborhood, starting at 35, and I only imagine going up. I live at the end of Whitefield Street, and a road was obviously never designed for heavy traffic. If you've never been on a street, just like everyone else, I invite you to drive it. It's very narrow, does not have sidewalks. Nowhere in a neighborhood has sidewalks, so when people talk about kids playing in the streets because they don't have an option. And so also widening Whitefield, again, don't have options to have kids play in the front yard when our front yards are already here to this wall. Don't know how widening that would look. I'm urging caution in starting this development, mainly because it starts at 35 homes, but would most likely end up with mixed-use areas, hundreds of homes, which would mean hundreds, if not, up to 1,000 cars, dumping out in our tiny road, including Cedar Street. Like everyone said, Cedar and Whitefield, they're the same thing. They go into the Lillian intersection, which, if you've ever been there at rush hour in the morning or pickup time for school, it also has a ton of carryover from Alexander. I see about probably 15 buddies every morning wave to me when I'm leaving for work because they cut across through because the Alexander intersection is already backed up. The solution that keeps getting brought up is Harbin Street. It is a road that's built for heavy traffic, has a functional traffic light, and connects properly to the city. If the developer is serious about getting going this project, I also urge them to come speak with us. Maybe we can sit down, have a meeting, have a town hall, see if something can get done. As of now, we've not been approached by anyone. None of us are here to be combative. I have nothing against any developers developing any land near us. I'm just here to preserve our little gem of a neighborhood and pursue smart growth like any other father would. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there anybody else who wishes to speak against this preliminary plat, sir? Thank you. State your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Taylor Moore. I live at 1485 K-Lock. It's the corner of K-Lock and Lillian. Again, like everybody else, not opposed to R1. I do feel like that this development is putting the cart a bit before the horse as far as infrastructure does go. Like everybody said, Cedar Street is very narrow. Basically, the city inherited a county road whenever they annexed that land out there. That is also a main thoroughfare into town for anybody that lives between town and 847 in the county. My schedule allows me a lot of days of being in my front yard, mowing during the day and witnessing the amount of traffic that comes on that street from out in the county, from the other residences. As far as infrastructure goes, we're gonna develop this development, and they're gonna have hydrants close to their houses. My house at the corner, I'm 700 feet from the closest hydrant. Most places in most towns, you're within 300 feet, or there's a fire hydrant every 300 feet. I don't know what happened with the development of the K-Lock addition, but there are no hydrants on Lillian except for at the corner of Lillian and Southwood. Mr. Randolph's house, it's gonna be a long ways for me to stretch my fire hose from a hydrant to his house, and hopefully the hydrant works. Hopefully we're able to pump him water. So we're gonna develop this new development, but there's still some things lacking for the current residents that are already there. Lillian Street, the curbs stop at Whitefield and Lockwood. I don't have a curb on the Lillian side of my house. The water runs down through there, erodes my yard. The neighbors park in the grass and erode my yard because there's no curb to stop them. The blind curb, the house across the street from me that I know of has been hit twice. It's not right on the curb, it's a pretty good distance off of it. We recently had somebody take out the power pole on that curb. It is a drag strip. When people are coming around the curb, it's like, let's see how fast we can get to the light. I know some of those concerns probably need to be addressed more with the city as far as traffic control and finishing out the street, but my problem is, we're gonna develop this and we're gonna make it nice. We're gonna develop however much of Cedar Street in front of it, but between Lockwood and Cedar, or the development, what are we gonna do about that? The runoff, I can say for sure, you can say that that won't create any more flooding, but when you shed water off of houses, that ground that's there absorbs the water when it falls from the sky. When you put houses and streets on it, they don't absorb water. They gotta go somewhere, and it's gonna run across the street and flood it out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else who wishes to speak against this preliminary plat? Anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this preliminary plat? Yes, sir.
Can I add one more thing in favor of it?
Sure.
Just like to add one more thing on behalf of myself, my two brothers and my father, who are my business partners in this venture and other developments we have in town. We can understand and do appreciate the concerns of the surrounding neighborhoods, property owners, people to the north, south, east, west of this property. I'd like to reiterate that, going back to when this was introduced earlier in the meeting, we can only control what we can control. I cannot do anything for improvements to existing neighborhoods, lack of fire hydrants, drainage, roads that existed long before we ever came to town here. All I do know is that everything within that the engineering within that preliminary plat that will become full engineering conforms and will conform, if not exceed, the city standards, engineering standards, public works standards. We are well aware that we can't just go put in whatever we want and not take into account the drainage for those 37 lots, the roads, improvements. We've dedicated, I believe, more right-of-way than necessary or what is called for on Cedar Street, so we're attempting to improve that to the best of our ability to, again, control any impact we would have on surrounding properties. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Knuth. Any other people wish to speak in favor of this preliminary plat? I'll close the public hearing. Before I move to a motion, Steve, can you just clarify it for us once again? What we do here is set into motion a whole slew of things that need to get approved. The conditions that are specifically listed for this preliminary plat to be approved are numerous. And it seems to me include most of what was being discussed here tonight. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair, that's accurate, and if you would give me the liberty, I'd like
Please.
to address a few of the things. First, I want to make a point here. This is not my project. My job is to, when an applicant comes, is to put him in front of the two governing bodies that decide if this moves forward or not. I'm not here to try to sell the project or dissuade you from liking the project. I'm just here to tell you what we've studied and what we know to this point. So the you language and, you know, the accusations that I'm letting this happen, I'm not letting that happen. I don't have the authority to do other than bring you the project to review. And so I just want to make that clear. I 100% apologize for the gentleman's agreement that slipped out of my mouth. The minute I said it, I was like, someone's going to call you out on that. It's not a gentleman's agreement. It's regulated by the fire code. He can only build 30 homes without a secondary means of ingress, egress. If he goes beyond the 30 homes, he will be required to provide fire sprinkling or the secondary means of egress. So that, it's not a gentleman's agreement. It is written by, it is in the universal or the International Fire Code that is very thoroughly enforced by our fire marshal. The Harbin Street extension is important to the city, it's important to you, it's important to this developer, and it's in the plat comments. This cannot move forward until we have that solution. That's part of the approval, conditional approval of this preliminary plat. So flooding, I touched on that earlier. They are they're to the point of making their submittal for the civil plan set that will go into an extensive review. Sometimes that can take 6 months to get through the review process. That's going to be looked at very thoroughly. To Mr. Knute's point, their job is not to fix conditions in other areas. But what they can't do with this 49 acres is add to the problems. They don't have to fix existing conditions, but they can't do anything to make it worse. I didn't say that 37 homes doesn't cause any impervious drainage concerns. What I said is that they have to find a way through engineering to accommodate that additional impervious drainage. I didn't say it with this clarity, but when we get to the point of saying, yes, you can move forward with the project, our engineers, our third-party engineer, and the developer's engineer have come to a conclusion that they have detention features in there and drainage calculations to support it, that it will not cause a detrimental impact downstream. Someone mentioned there's going to be hundreds of homes. This entire plat, you might recall, we had one that came forward. It was for a smaller lot development, and the maximum density was around 125 homes. This is an R1 development. The maximum density is around 81 homes. Engineers determine when a traffic impact analysis is required, and that's if it generates more than 1,000 trips per day. And so that will be a component of this development if the engineers say, we think by our calculations that it's going to exceed 1,000 trips per day. And so now we have to look at I believe it's a 1.5 mile radius of how the traffic is impacted by the development. The engineers make that determination. It was mentioned that we shouldn't grant approval of preliminary plat until we have all the construction standards figured out. I certainly understand those sentiments, but the commission understands by state law, and I want to make this clear for our audience, by state law, we either approve the plat, and we have 30 days to take action, by the way. Approve the plat, approve the plat with conditions, which we have roughly 35 conditions, or we deny the plat. And if we deny the plat, we have to give a legal reason as to why the plat was being denied. Something that's backed by law or a city ordinance. And as soon as that is corrected, then the plat's approved. So in essence, it's the same as a conditional approval. So I hope I answered the questions you may have had, Chair. Thank you for giving me the liberty. I felt it was important to everyone to get to hear those clarifying points. Thank you.
Could you also respond to the question of funding of these infrastructure improvements?
Any roadway improvement, public infrastructure, hydrants, that is all required to be covered by the developer. The city does not pay for any of the improvements. Fire hydrants will have to be spaced in this development at 300 feet intervals, not 700 feet. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, we need a motion. I note that this is not a recommendation to council. This is something that we do at our level. So the motion would be to either consider approval of the preliminary plat with conditions or deny. Again, it would have to be based on a legal reason.
I'll make the motion to approve the preliminary plat with conditions.
Second.
All right. We'll do a roll call. What stands is a motion to approve the preliminary plat with conditions. Brian?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
I'm aye.
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 All right, so that moves forward. It will come back to us, correct? It'll come back when it's no longer preliminary. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. If you want to scoot out before we move on, you're welcome to. All right, next up, application number PP 2026-9563. Applicant Jaden Cogburn, representing Jet Worldwide, Inc., is requesting approval of a preliminary plat of property located at 615 College Farm Road, parcel R29924, being block 87, lot 2B of the 2600 city edition of the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think one thing I need to make certain that I'm bringing out here is we had 3 letters of opposition
Correct.
for this.
Yes.
So you just want to make that point. Again, it's very similar to the previous preliminary plat. Staff's asking that the commission consider a conditional approval of the preliminary plat. It has been reviewed by staff. That includes Development Services, Fire Marshal's Office, and Public Works. We have a pretty lengthy list of conditions in the staff report. Number 19 says they have to complete all items listed in the attached Public Works review dated March 10, 2026. That's in your packet. And then one other point I wanted to make, if you look at the preliminary plat for this development, it might catch your eye that they only have one point of ingress egress. That issue has already been resolved. Fire Marshal Office has talked to the developer, and the developer will be sprinkling every single-family residence in this development. And so building permits will not be issued unless there is a sprinkler plan set provided at the time of application. So every home will have to be sprinkled because of the point of ingress and egress. As I mentioned earlier, be glad to try to address any of the comments that are listed in the staff report or by Public Works. And with that, Madam Chair and Commissioners, be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Killen? All right, I'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Anybody here who wishes to speak against this preliminary plat?
I think you got my application there, right?
Yes, Ronald,
Ronald did.
yes.
895 College Run Road.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to voice some concerns.
Sure, would you come on up to the podium? Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes.
All right. It's the first time I've seen this drawing, so I was concerned about what was going to be built there.
All right. I'm sorry, sir. Just for the record, name and address.
890, Ronnie Gale, 895 College Farm Road.
Thank you.
Been there since 2005, so I've seen a lot of changes in the area. So I've got a beautiful skyline. I'm living in the city, but of countryside. Right. So the concern is the traffic. That's number one. I know when I replat my lots, I gave up 25 feet of frontage to widen the road. So with this extra traffic that's coming from this development, hopefully that'll be an improvement that's on your agenda. Because at the moment, it's just single road. We have juggernauts going through there. I know we have a cleaning process at the moment, but sometimes when Lincolnville has a problem, on the bonfire night, we have a lot of traffic going through there, and it's just a bottleneck on Collins, because it's, I don't know how wide it is, but I think it's probably about 18 feet. So you get, it's difficult to get 2 cars alongside, or 2 trucks. One has to give way on Graham Street, as to make a right turn or a left turn. So traffic is probably the number one. And going on to Lingerville from College Farm Stables, you've got the traffic coming from 281. And certain times of the day, it's difficult to make a right there. You have to make a left, sorry. It's easier to make a right, and use the traffic and filter around through the loop. So the traffic was number one. And number two would be the drainage, because they have a problem with a lot of runoff from the lot from 615. So I've been dealing with a lot of erosion at the back of the property. So I've been trying to manage it. I dug my own retention pond. I'm in the process of trying to build some little barriers just to steer it away from the new development that was just on 905 College Farm Road, which is my wife's. You probably got her letter. And so that was number two. And number three is obviously the taxes. So since 2005 to present day, my taxes have gone up nearly 200%. Now, if we have a new development of all these nice houses, it's just going to skyrocket again. Now, I'm on a fixed income, I'm retired, have my pension, so in 20 years' time, I won't be able to afford to live in the area the way the current trend is. And that was number three. So that pretty much covers everything my concern is. And I tried to do a research on Jet Wild, and that, what I discovered, it's like a liaison company, like logistics. I don't know if it's the same company, but they're dealing in like Amazon. So I didn't want like a factory there or a storage unit where we got, trucks coming in, picking parcels, dropping parcels off. So that's just a brief research that I did.
Thank you, sir.
All right?
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any others wish to speak against this preliminary plat? Yes, ma'am. Would you like to come up?
Yes, sure.
Please state your name and address.
You need a letter or no?
We have your letter. Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing.
Again, I'm sorry, name and address.
My name,
Yeah,
Gisela
thank you.
Gale.
Thank you.
We just literally moved last Thursday, a week today, to the 905 College Farm Road because we love the area. It's close to the community, but it's still like away. And now I'm worried that the landscaping is going to change because instead of me seeing the deers on the field, we're going to see a wall. That's not good. Also, like the traffic, like he said, Collins is a very small area, and there's a lot of traffic there. And we already had apartments before the train tracks, and there's a lot of traffic through there. And the reason we build there is because we love the area. But now we're going to have to be forced to sell, maybe to the developer that he's already asking if we can buy, if we can sell, and move somewhere else. Which we moved from California because we were too crowded in California, and now we're going to be crowded again. So that's me being against it. And my daughter also owns a property there, which she also sent a letter about it. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else wish to speak against this preliminary plat? Does anybody wish to speak in favor of this preliminary plat? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Steve, once again, could you just address some of these issues? Traffic, drainage.
So, yes, ma'am. Drainage will be addressed with the civil plan set that will be submitted for the project. Traffic, again, if it triggers over 1,000 trips, then the engineer will have to perform a traffic impact analysis, and that will make the determination if any other improvements have to be made, such as street lights or things of that nature, as a result of the impact of the development. I'm sorry, I didn't.
The narrowness of Collins, the bottleneck there.
So, the development only at the extension or for the amount of property that actually fronts on College or Collins Street, College Farm Road, that's the only part that the developer would actually be required to improve. And so they're dedicating the right of way, they'll make the improvement for that stretch. And possibly that will help with the, means of ingress and egress onto College Farm Road. Certainly it is a small, narrow road at Collins and then all the way out. So I certainly understand that, but the developer will have to meet those improvement requirements as listed in chapter 155, which is our subdivision ordinance. That's one of the conditions listed in the plat. Just want to make sure I covered your
Yeah, that's,
notes.
yeah, taxes aren't something that we can really
Yeah, taxes,
address.
I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps it would help having additional
Yeah.
homes on the tax roll, but
All right.
that's beyond my expertise.
And again, just as with the last plat, preliminary plat, this is not final. This is setting into motion a number of studies that need to be done. This is done with condition. And legally, we cannot deny this unless we have an actual legal reason to deny.
That is correct. What we're looking for here is to basically get the layout of the subdivision, how many homes we're talking about, where are we gonna put the things such as fire hydrants and manholes and sewer lines. All of those things come into play when we start looking at plats, but we have to have a starting point. This will be the first step, and as we get those civil plans and construction plans, if there's any modification, basically the final plat needs to look like the preliminary plat. And if there's a modification along the way, we need to catch that, and that's gonna be part of the approval. But for the most part, the preliminary plat is to really set the stage of what the final subdivision is going to look and feel like.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioners, we need a motion.
Motion for approval, recommend approval of application PP 2026-9563.
This would be straight approval with conditions.
With conditions, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just straight approval.
Okay.
Is there a second?
You did have the conditions?
With conditions, yes.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the preliminary plat with conditions, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. That moves on. Next up, application number PP 2026-9569, applicant Josh Schulich, representing TechMac Stephenville Hotel LP, is requesting approval of a preliminary plat of property located at 0 South Harbin Street, parcel R30481 being block 19, lot 18, parcel R33594 being block 19, lot 17, parcel R76373 being block 19, lot 14R of the S6200 South Side Edition of the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat. When I mention staff, I mean our review team being Development Services, Public Works, and Fire Marshal's Office. We have collected our thoughts and listed those as the conditions for approval, which is what we're recommending the commission do, is approve the preliminary plat with conditions. A lot of the same conditions from previous plats are listed here. This is for a property on Harbin Street. It is for the construction of a hotel, and the developer had provided a narrative that I'm gonna see if we'll pull up. Jeff, my computer keeps locking up, so if you could get to the narrative for me, I'd appreciate it. Narrative is basically mentioning that it is going to be, we're basically taking three lots, putting them into one single parcel for a single lot development. It will include a hotel, and it's going to be a 126 room hotel at 400 block of South Harbin Drive at Stephenville. The replat eliminates interior property lines, creates a single development tract that meets all zoning, land use regulations, subdivision, and development standards. No changes to existing boundaries or surrounding properties are proposed. We have the right-of-way already on Harbin. There is a variable width along Harbin, and so I've listed in one of the comments to make sure that we have adequate and appropriate dedication for that variable width right-of-way. With that, Madam Chair, again, there's a lot of multiple conditions listed. I'll be glad to answer questions regarding any of those or anything related to this development. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Killen? All right, I'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak against this preliminary plat? Anybody who wishes to speak in favor? I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plat, 2026-9569
With,
conditions.
all right, all those in favor of approving the preliminary plat with conditions, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long one. Motion to adjourn? Someone?
So moved.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate it.